Let's go ahead and look at the following scenario. Peter and Paul both drive for a nationwide trucking company. In 1 week, Peter hauls a load 880 miles in 3 days. In the same week, Paul drives a distance of 2,060 miles in 5 days. If Peter is paid $840 and Paul is paid $1,845, how much does a trucking company pay per day and per mile driven? Okay, so this is actually, we can solve this with a system of equations. So let's go ahead and define a few variables. So we're going to let the variable x equal the daily rate. This is the rate or the amount of money that the trucking company will pay its driver per day. And notice that answers the first question. How much does the trucking company pay per day? And we're going to let y equal the per mile rate. This is the amount that the trucking company will pay per mile driven, which notice that answers the second question. We're not just labeling these variables just anything. We're actually being strategic about it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's set up a few equations. So we have, let's scroll back up. So we have two equations. We're going to have Peter's equation, and we're going to have an equation for Paul's pay. So what do we know about Peter? Peter hauls a load. He drives 880 miles in 3 days and is paid $840. So we know that he's going to make $840, and his pay is going to consist of the number of days times his pay per day times the number of miles times his pay per mile. So he drives 3 days and he's paid a daily rate of X. So we're going to have 3X plus the pay that he makes per mile. Well, he drives 880 miles and he's paid a pay of Y per mile. So 880Y. When we add these up, they should equal 880. All right, we're just picking out some important pieces of information out of our word problem and constructing some equations from them. So let's go ahead and get Paul's cost equation. So we have Paul makes $1,845. So his equation is going to equal $1,845, and it's going to consist of something similar. He drives 5 days, and he gets paid X amount of dollars per day. So he's going to have 5 times X, plus he drives 2,060 miles, and he's paid a cost of Y dollars per mile. So we're going to have 2,060 times Y. And we have a set of equations, a set of linear equations, called a system that we can actually now solve. So we want to multiply both of these equations by a scalar so that the coefficients of one variable will actually be the opposite of each other. Well, we have the coefficient of x here is 3 and 5. 3 and 5 have a lowest common multiple of 15. So what we can do is we can multiply this first equation by minus 5, and this is second equation by positive 3. That'll give us a minus 15x and a plus 15x, so when we go to the elimination process, we can actually cancel these out in the next step. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So we have Peter's equation is 3x plus 880y equals 840, and we have Paul's equation is 5x plus 2,060 times y equals 1,845. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply this first equation by a scalar of minus 5, and the second equation by a scalar of a positive 3. This is going to give us the following two equations. We're going to have minus 15x, which is multiplying each term by minus 5. We're going to have a minus 5 times 880 is a minus 4,400 y equals minus 5 times 840 is a minus 4,200. All right, and the next one we're going to have 3 times 5x is 15x. 3 times 2,060 is a positive 6,180y. And 3 times 1,845, 3 times 1,845 is going to be 5,535. All right, so now we can actually combine these two equations, and the cool part about this, as these two terms will cancel. So we're going to be left with 1780y equals 1335. We're simply combining these two equations, and now we can divide both sides of this equation by 1780. These two terms will cancel, which gives us y equals, and this actually will boil down to 3/4. We can also write this as 0.75, and this is going to be y. Y is the per mile rate driven. So the cost per mile driven is going to be 75 cents per mile. Okay, we got that from here. Now we want to know the per day mile driven. So how much is each person going to be paid by the trucking company per day? Well, all we do is simply plug 3/4 or 0.75 in for y into either one of our original equations. All right, so let's go ahead and plug it into the first one. Scroll down a little bit. So we have 3 times x, 3 times x is what we want to solve for, plus 880 times y. Let's just go ahead and use the fraction form. 3/4 equals 840. We're going to get 3x. We can multiply these two together. We can actually simplify this a little bit first. This will simplify to 1 and 220 if we factor out a 4 out of both. So 220 times 3 is 660 equals 840. We can go ahead and subtract both sides by 660. We're just using what we know and what we've been practicing. These two terms will cancel, so we have 3x equals 840 minus 660 is just 180. We can go ahead and divide both sides by 3. Those two terms will cancel, so we have x equals 60. And this is our daily rate, which we can answer this question up here. The trucking company pays $60 per day. So we've answered these two questions by solving a system of linear equations. The only difference is here that we multiplied both of our equations here. We manipulated them to where we can actually cancel one of the variables here. This is called elimination. But we had to move them around a little bit and multiplying by a few scalars, but this is nothing new to us. We should actually be pretty good at this by now. So look over this a few times, make sure you understood how we actually got the equations out of here, and you should be familiar with how to solve them now. So I'll see you in the next video.